If you told me you were going to attack this position with a frontal assault, I would ask you if you wanted an open or closed coffin for your funeral. In case you don't know, what we see here is the shipping dock in the city of Piltover. The buildings just beyond it contain the Hex Gate, the final goal of the attacking Nox army, representing the madman Victor. This is a defender's wet dream. The arrangement of buildings essentially creates the classic bullhorn shape, a battle tactic used to outflank an opponent. But whereas ancient armies would try to move this bullhorn's position around an opponent, here the opponent is moving into the horns, essentially outflanking themselves. And this is only the first problem for an attacker here. Next is the dock that the ships would spew their troops out onto. It's narrow, it's got no cover, it's a shooting gallery, the troops fish in a barrel. The third problem is kind of hard to see here, but there are quite large steps leading up to the doors into the hex gates. If you've seen the film Zulu, you'll know exactly why this is a problem for the attackers. If you haven't, the English soldiers in Zulu create a defensive wall of guns by having a front row of gunners kneeling and a back row of gunners standing. On these large steps, you could have row after row after row of gunners all overtopping each other, creating a huge wall of guns. Combine this with the narrow landing the attackers would be on, and the defenders are laughing. And that's before we get to problem number 4. There is incredible verticality in this battle. There are short buildings, tall buildings, towers and bridges, all at varying heights that would make wonderful snipers' nests. And there is so much open ground between the docks and the doors leading into the hex gates. There would be nowhere for any attacking troops to hide. This is all considering troops, of course. If the attackers brought armoured vehicles with them, then some of these issues would be solved. For a time, anyway. If, for instance, a tank was used, it could get right up to the doors, at which point troops would then get out to plant explosives to blast the door open. However, there's nothing stopping the defenders using heavy artillery. And thanks to the building arrangement, big guns could be positioned all over the shop, at all sorts of heights. And, once again, the narrow landing would become clogged pretty quickly if a tank was hit by artillery while still in it. Simply put, on equal terms, the defenders of this position would have a field day. The only way a full frontal assault would work is if the attackers had a silly amount of forces, and the defenders were laughably understaffed. Otherwise, attacking from the front here would be absolutely insane.
Pattern suicide.
So how would I plan my attack on the hex gates? If I had to attack from the front, I'd use armoured vehicles and or shields to cover troops and get them as fast as possible to the nearest buildings. As much as this layout is highly defensible, it is not a fortress. It is a public place with many entrances and exits that can only be reinforced so far. An attacking force could take advantage of these and find safety within the walls. However, as pointed out, there is quite some distance between dock and building, so even this plan would have a high risk of failure. So I would propose this. The Hex Gate is not an island. It is part of the city of Piltover, and therefore is accessible by land. Send forces to attack from the front, and have them dig in at the dock, using the ships for protection. While this is happening and the enemy is distracted, send ground troops through the city to attack from the rear, gain entry to the buildings, and tear the defences down from the inside. That would be my idea anyway. Of course, that's going to be fraught with danger and all sorts of problems of its own, but it would be far more successful than attacking from the front. I haven't mentioned a lot of things in this analysis, like hex tech, shimmer, robots, or magic, because the extent of these is somewhat unknown, at least from this vantage point. I have obviously watched the episode and know how all this plays out, so I know all my theorising here is, to say the least, wishful thinking. I will also like to say, what you are about to hear was recorded before this intro. When doing editing, I saw this image and knew I had to say something about it. So the reason I haven't talked about certain things yet is because I might be mentioning them in a minute. So without further ado, let's begin.
Y'all ready for this?
We start the battle analysis before the battle, in the conference room where the main characters are discussing the battle tactics. Or, no, they're not. Jace is just saying, "Buy me time," and "Victor mustn't reach the hex gates," over and over again. We do see toy ships in the dock, so that's how the Nox are going to attack? Maybe? Would have been nice to know why they think this is how the enemy will attack, or how they plan to deal with that attack. Anyway, we begin the battle. Or no, as the battle is already underway, with Nox troops, boots on the ground. Have the ships landed already? I feel like we're missing important information already, and that there's holes in the story that won't ever be filled. We see Vi carrying a wounded soldier to safety, what looks to be up in a tower, many floors above the battlefield. Why is Vi, a melee fighter, all this way above the battle when she could be down there getting stuck in? Don't the defenders have medics that can help? Even if Vi has to be up here for some reason, why isn't she using her energy shields on her gauntlets to protect people? Has the show forgotten she has those? There appears to be only one hex railgun launching shipping containers, rather than multiple hex guns firing lasers like Jace's hammer. Bit weird. I wonder why they did that. The shipping container hits the Nox ship. Actually, 2 ships. So there's a second railgun somewhere? Maybe? Doesn't seem to do much damage though, so not the best of weapons. Should have gone with lasers, mate. Also, these ships haven't arrived yet. They're still in open water. So did the Nox troops already fighting arrive by foot? Or are there other ships that have already docked? Damn it, show, why are you so shit at communicating all of a sudden? Those ground troops are then face to face with enforcers. Rifles against medieval warfare? Seriously, the Nox are using shields, spears and crossbows. How are they putting up any kind of fight against not only relatively modern tech, but hex tech? Are their armors and shields bulletproof? I do hope we don't see evidence to the contrary later. Back up in the tower, Vi combat slides into a hiding place, takes off her gloves, and drags the wounded soldier across the floor. 1. That soldier is in serious condition. Don't treat them like a sack of potatoes and use your super strong gloves to carry the wounded soldier, you crimson cunt. 2. Why the fuck are you up here helping the wounded rather than, I don't know, getting into that face-to-face combat we just saw and wrecking house? While we're up here, we see the incredibly slow process of reloading the Hex railgun, using a hand winch to wheel a shipping container on rails across the room to the gun. Yes, I'm saying it like that for a reason. Who designed this piece of shit? Use lasers for Christ's sake. In this shot, Vi is holding the hand of some random person we and she do not know. Vi can't help and isn't helping the medics, so what the fuck is she doing here? Go and fight, you useless twat. Cut to Ambessa entering the fight by dragging her blades across the floor? She is actively ruining her weapons doing that. She is a proud warrior. She would absolutely not do that. No, the rule of cool doesn't apply because this doesn't look cool. Ambessa then steps through the shield wall and in front of the enforcers, but doesn't get killed by a hail of fire? No, putting her arm up doesn't protect her entire body from being peppered by bullets, especially when she uses her weapons and she is left wide open. Especially when she's surrounded by guns. How did they end up surrounding her? Why aren't they shooting? Why and or how are they in melee range? And why is this guy running up to her and swinging his gun like a club? At this point, I want to say, I'd love to see the progress of this battle properly, from start to finish. I'd particularly like to see the gradually increasing desperation of the defenders as they run out of ammo and end up in this situation. But no, we don't get details like that anymore. We just see gunners running into melee and getting stabbed. What a waste. Caitlyn snipes at Ambessa from atop a tower out of sight. I initially presumed Ambessa's energy shield activated and she put her arm up afterwards in reflex. The problem is, this shot shows a hex bullet or fragment flying past Ambessa's face, so she must have raised her arm up to stop the bullet hitting her. But that means she can move as fast as a bullet? Fuck off. Then the tower is shot at by a cannon, which Caitlyn somehow survives, and Ambessa makes a comment about her. It makes sense, given the context, that Ambessa would know it was Caitlyn because it was a Hex-Tech bullet. But the context is a problem. Why are there no other Hex weapons other than Vi's gauntlets, Caitlyn's rifle, and the railgun? Jace should have got a load of blacksmiths to churn these bugger out as fast as possible prior to the battle. If not every soldier, then maybe half of them should have weapons? And no, using Hex-Tech isn't a problem, otherwise why make the railguns? Also, whilst we're here, why isn't Ambessa being shot by all the other snipers? She's a massively important target, and there should be loads of gunners in this battle. Bitch should be shredded wheat at this point. It's nice to see Boogie 2988 getting into films. Seriously though, they're using a shimmer fatty to pull Victor's cocoon into battle. What is this, 300? If you've not seen this show, you might be wondering, why are they pulling this out mid-fight when they should probably wait until the battle's over? If you have seen the show, you know this is a ruse. But then, why is no one defending, wondering why this is happening? As far as they are concerned, this would be an insane thing to do. Or at least they should, but we don't know what they know about the battle. Hell, we don't even know what tactics they are supposed to be using. Bloody useless show. We cut to Jace turning off the hex core by pulling out what looked like cooling rods, or the equivalents of. Why is he the only one here doing this? Do you need to be a scientist to open a hatch, turn a handle, and pull? There should be a ton of people in here doing this quick sharpish. On top of that, where are all the guards guarding the enemy's goal? Oh well, I'm sure that won't be a problem later. Back to the battle, and Vi's position is being assaulted by Nox. How did they get up here? Did the defenders not have anyone between ground level and up here? Surely fighting in tight corridors would have made for excellent visuals and defensive tactics. Hell, Vi would have made a massive advantage in such conditions. Oh well. Here we get to see the railgun in all its, glory? This is a piece of shit, it must be said. Weapons of war are meant to be sturdy and rugged, so they don't break as soon as someone shoots at them. This looks fragile as fuck. The electrodes, or whatever they are open to being shot at. The gears moving it are unprotected and easy to jam. Even the gunner only has one short plate in front of them for protection, hence why he gets shot in the neck by fucking arrows. So long, shield bro, we knew you but little. We go back down to the battlefield to Caitlyn leading an assault on the cocoon. And wouldn't it be great if there was another railgun handy? Again, insert rant about a lack of hex weapons in this battle. At least Shimmer Boogie looks quite dench and able to fend off a potential attack. Back upstairs, and Vi has been pinned down by a melee attack. Didn't look like it was a deliberate pin, but at least now the attacker can just go to town on Vi. No, not like that. I mean stab her and whatnot. Oh well. Sorry Vi, was nice knowing you. A counterattack begins on the battlefield, with gas grenades being thrown, filled with the grey from earlier in the series. Unfortunately, the gas does nothing. No, seriously, it does nothing. Nox soldiers start coughing, but continue to attack and defend as normal, so the toxic gas isn't that toxic. They also can clearly see through the gas as they run at enforcers to fight in melee, and shoot them with arrows at range. So, what exactly was the point of the gas? I was so distracted by the gas not working that I nearly missed the other bits of stupidity here. Why are the people with rifles running into melee? They should be hanging back and firing from, range. The gas clearly isn't hindering anyone's line of sight. And why is Caitlyn, the de facto leader of Piltover, a part of this attack? Why isn't she leading the whole fight and directing her forces from above? There is a reason why, and it ain't good. The bomb is planted, but it doesn't go off, leading to the attack failing and the enforcers being captured, for some reason. Ambessa kills prisoners, so not sure why she bothered capturing these guys. I know why, but yeah, whatever. Back to the bomb. The show shows us the innards working and the bomb about to go off, then shows them again not working because of a nail in them. This is yet another case of the show showing us something that actively harms the story. Not only is the nail not there in the first shot, but it doesn't appear to be doing anything in the second. Showing us this makes this scene worse. We didn't need this to guess it was tampered with when we get the reveal seconds from now. I just wanted to show you this wide shot here. Look at this place. This is a killing floor. The Nox should have been slaughtered. And yet, against all odds, they fucking won somehow. Anyway, it's revealed that Ginger here betrayed the defenders. She also tampered with the bomb since she was shown handling it before. She betrayed them because Caitlyn was her bed warmer and Caitlyn slept with Vi. I would just like to point out that Jace told everyone that this battle was to save the city and possibly the world from a terrible end. This soulless fucker wanted to get revenge on her ex so bad she doomed the world. Show? What the fuck? Ginger goes to execute Caitlyn, but gold shields ricochet the bullet into Ginger. Hooray! The doors open to reveal Mel using her arcane powers, and I would just like to ask, where the fuck were you this whole time? This isn't a Scarlet Witch in Infinity War situation, by the way. Wanda was guarding Vision and came out to help in the battle, only to leave Vision to be attacked. Mel could have helped at any time, and it wouldn't have hurt or hindered anyone or anything. So why the fuck didn't she? But this stupidity is about to be washed away by this one. Jinx and the Firelights arrive, accompanied by the Undergrounders, led by Savika and... Is that the chef? Why is the chef in the front line of the melee attackers? This is as bad as Mantis in Endgame. Worse, these Undergrounders aren't equipped for battle. They're in civilian clothing, and yet they not only don't get immediately killed, but actually break up the Nox shield wall. Savika throws a punch over the shield wall and takes out the Nox soldiers. This definitively proves that Vi would have made a huge difference in this battle. Fuck's sake, Vi. Boogie goes down in 2 hits, apparently straight through the helmet. So much for having a big tough shimmer monster. Why didn't they use a car or something to pull the cocoon on? Why did you... And the Nox, the incredibly competent army of hardened warriors, immediately leave the prisoners unguarded, allowing them to grab their guns and attack the Nox from behind. Fuck's sake, show. Jinx flies up to attack the Nox in the tower, and we see Vi and the other enforcers... Wait, Vi's alive? And what are they doing? Are they surrendering? Or are they captured? Why did they have their weapons? What the fuck happened here, show? At any rate, when Jinx attacks, the enforcers, who still have their weapons, fight back, and a Nox soldier is shot through the helmet with a normal-ass rifle. So they aren't bulletproof. Hell, based on a later shot, their armor isn't even stab-proof. The Nox are wearing paper armor, and yet they weren't crushed by the enforcers and their guns. Bloody hell. Thanks to Jinx, the railgun is able to be fired at Victor's cocoon. But he's not in there. The entire battle has been a waste of time. Victor's robots turn up immediately afterwards and capture everyone, making the entire battle redundant. What the fuck was the point in all of this? Worse, Victor is awake and is breaking into the hex core room with Jace. Would have been nice to have some fucking guards down there or something, wouldn't it? Better, it would have been good to have multiple people working on shutting this thing down, so when Victor arrived it would have been dismantled already. The parts could have been taken away and Victor would have been screwed, but nope, it's all here, there's no resistance, fuck it, here you go Victor, enjoy. So what happened? For starters, we don't know what the plan to defend Piltover is, nor what the defenders think the attackers will do. We don't know what the forces are like leading into the battle, on either side of the conflict. We have to guess at the manpower, vehicles, technology, magic, and anything else that might get involved. Then we're dropped into the battle without ceremony and without a clear idea of what's going on or what has happened up to this point. Apparently the Hex-Tech empowered railguns were shit at their jobs, allowing the Nox to land their bloody sailing ships. The defenders were apparently shit at strategizing, because their ground troops are positioned in the middle of open space. Not on the stairs, not on the high ground, not in or on the buildings, just out in the open. And these ground troops were also shit at their jobs, being unable to stop the Nox troops from leaving the bottleneck of the docks. This despite the defenders using rifles and the Nox using medieval weapons and wearing paper armor. So limited and ineffective are the ground troops that the show makes it look like Ambessa alone defeats them and wins the battle. And yes, the battle is basically over after defeating a single defensive line. I commented on my play-by-play of the battle that bringing out Victor's orb mid-fight was a bit of an odd strategy. But honestly, the battle is over at that point, you just don't realise it. This victory is then followed up by the counter-attack using gas that did absolutely nothing, and ultimately failed because of fucking jealousy. The Nox won the battle even though they absolutely should have lost. And then opposite day continues when Jinx and the Firelights lead a ragtag group of random undergrounders in their civvies who are somehow more effective than the entirety of the city of Piltover's military and police forces combined, eventually defeating the Nox. And then Victor's robots arrive and we're left asking what was the point of any of this. During all of these events, Hex Tech is bloody useless because it was either countered, ineffective, or not used at all for reasons beyond my ken. And although Shimmer made some surprise appearances, they barely made an impact beyond visuals. There weren't even any snipers in the buildings, except for Caitlyn, who decided to come down to ground level for purely plot reasons. In the end, there was so much that could have been done, but wasn't. And what was done was stupid, jarring, and disjointed, all so the Nox could win overall and put certain people in certain positions. I understand that the show is trying to make the Nox look like a warrior race who excel at fighting, but generally speaking you do that by making the warriors good, not by making their enemies horrendously incompetent. Well, that is until the Undergrounders arrived, then suddenly they switched roles. All of this, of course, was redundant because the robots arrived and won in an instant. Could there have been a battle between Victorbots and Piltover? Maybe. I could certainly see a resistance made against them. If the robots concentrated on grabbing and converting rather than killing and disabling, there could have been some hopeful yet ultimately fruitless struggles. Bloody hell, imagine defenders in the Hex Core chamber blasting a torrent of robots pouring down the corridor towards them, including some half-converted, recognisable cyborgs. But nah, let's have a shit battle instead, followed by a clean sweep and a literal walkover. It's this last part that really begs the question of whether this battle should have been a thing. Then again, I've been asking myself whether there should have been a second series of Arcane, at least one like this anyway. The final battle is the entirety of Season 2 distilled into one glorious piece of bullshit nonsense. And that isn't even touching on the stuff with Victor afterwards. Characters acting in certain ways to achieve certain payoffs. Characters not acting in certain ways to achieve payoffs. Characters who are shown respect when they absolutely should not be. Characters, well, on and on and on we go with pretty much every aspect of the battle and the show. To give an example, let's go back into the battle and pop upstairs to try and work out exactly what was going on there. Vi is upstairs in the towers and does nothing for the whole fight, except Samoan drop injured soldiers to make them die quicker. Why was she not down on the ground fighting the medieval troops with her insanely powerful gauntlets? Why wasn't she having fisticuffs with Ambessa? That would have been cool, actually. As far as I can tell, it was so Vi was within reach of Jinx when not Warwick attacked her. Beyond that, there is no reason for her to be up here, doing what she's doing, or not doing. And that's a sentence not relegated to the battle in Season 2. An interesting detail I spotted was the doors being closed behind Vi after she entered the railgun room. There was no sign of enemy troops behind her or even upstairs. So why did these defenders go to such effort to lock and physically brace themselves against the doors? I think there were some serious time issues going on here. Vi is shown running from an exploding building right at the start of the battle, at least when we start watching it. We cut away to see a load of action, then come back and she's still running, and the building is still exploding. Vi runs into the building and the doors are closed behind her. Again, we see a load of action, then return to find the doors still being braced before being forced open by Nox, who are suddenly there. It feels like these three scenes should have been closer together, but the editing is so bad it makes it look like time was on pause up in the towers between shots. And again, this is an issue not reserved for just the battle. Editing me here. While putting together clips for the Vi upstairs part of this video, I wanted to get a view of the bridge and tower behind Vi to show there were no Nox troops up there for the defenders to close the doors on. However, when I paused on this shot, I saw something by the door. Zooming in, I could just make out shields and spears, which means that the Nox were just exiting the tower onto the bridge behind Vi. Exiting the tower, the ships below were just shelling. Well done for trying to kill your own people, you idiots. But anyway, this zoomed in shot proves me wrong, that the defenders were, in fact, barring the doors against an incoming enemy. But while this removes the problems of Vi being up here for no reason and the editing making this scene go on for too long, it now gives us other problems to deal with. It appears that the ideas I had at the start of this video were also had by the people making this show, i.e. send attackers up the towers to break up the elevated defenders and free up the ground troops to carry out the assault. My plan had the defenders being in better positions on the steps rather than on the ground in front of them, but whatever. But given we start watching the battle when the Nox troops are all the way up the top of the tower and the defenders are retreating, how much of the battle have we just missed? In my head, I think we missed a lot, and quite important a lot too. From what we saw, the Nox looked brain dead for charging headlong into a death trap, and the defenders looked even more brain dead for not stopping them. Now this one shot tells us there were some brains being used here, but because we don't see any of that, and the previous unseen events are poorly if not never communicated, we get a very different impression of everyone involved. Vi may very well have been on the ground floor getting stuck in, but had to retreat because of the troops flooding her position. This would have made her look useful, rather than bloody useless. This also changes the impression of the use of Victor's ball. Again, initially I thought it was being brought out mid-fight, which was odd. Then I had a second thought and decided the battle was over in one move and it was coming out after the fighting was over. Now I believe the battle had actually been going on for some time, and Ambessa's sweeping away of the troops was the final assault before she got Victor's ball out in front of everyone. On the one hand, this makes the battle look better than it did at first glance. On the other, it makes me hate it even more. We missed so much of the action. It would have made us appreciate the battle so much more, and it would have made the battle make much more sense. But, just like the rest of Season 2 of Arcane, things were missed out and rushed to squeeze it into a time frame that could not accommodate it, making it much, much worse. Oh look, I segued back into the video. Go me. This whole thing could have been better, should have been better, but it's honestly painful to watch, knowing what I know. In fact, the entirety of Arcane Season 2 could have been better, should have been better, and led into a third, fourth, and who knows how many more seasons. But honestly, what we got was just an awful thing to behold. I'm just going to imagine Arcane Season 2 never happened, and that Season 1 ended on a cliffhanger. I think we should all do the same. Now, if you'll excuse me, where did I put that bleach?